The Democratic Party is now lining up against the war, as you know. There was a vote. I'm going to go over this again. We've already reported, but it's very interesting. Last week in the House, it was symbolic legislation. It said, quote, whereas, according to Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Rafael Grossi, Iran has amassed a large stockpile of enriched uranium and continues to block access to undeclared sites in Iran affiliated with their big, ambitious nuclear program. Now, therefore, it's resolved. The House of Representatives declared a policy of the United States that Iran continues to be the largest state sponsor of terrorism, unquote. 53 Democrats voted against that resolution. One of them is a guy I like very much. He's a stand-up guy, all right? He comes in, he answers the questions, unlike a lot of his cohorts who run for the hills. Ro Khanna is a congressman from California. He joins us now from Washington. So I said nice things about you because I believe those things, but I was very surprised that you voted against this resolution. Very surprised.
Here's the thing, Bill, and I appreciated the kind words and your fairness. First of all, Iran is a terrorist state. The IRGC is a terrorist organization. They have killed their own civilians, thousands of them. They have supported Hezbollah and Hamas. So why did I vote against the resolution? Because one of the whereas clauses said that Iran posed a direct and imminent threat, as I read it, to the United States. And I fundamentally don't believe that to be true. And
so let me stop you right there. If the United States doesn't take action to destroy their nuclear capability, all right, they are going to develop the weapon. They say that. The foreign minister of Iran says, we're going to do it. You don't think that's an imminent threat against the United States? Even if they didn't hit us with the weapon, if they hit anybody on the planet, the whole planet's thrown into chaos and thousands of people die. That's not an imminent threat?
I do believe that it should be United States policy for Iran not to get the bomb. My view, and we disagree on this probably, is that the JCPOA that Obama negotiated had sufficiently stopped their enrichment. Now, it didn't do enough in terms of their ballistic missiles, and we could have renegotiated and strengthened it to include missiles. But you had, not only that, you had Donald Trump strike 6 months ago by his own account saying he obliterated a lot of the nuclear capability. So I do not believe that at this moment, this war was worthwhile, losing 7 service members, over 100 casualties, injuries, the price of gas that it is, the $1 billion a day. I believe there could have been diplomatic efforts that continued to prevent them from getting the nuclear bomb. If I thought
it didn't work for Obama, and it didn't work for Biden. They tried to bribe the mullahs by giving them billions of dollars in unfrozen money. You know that. And they told John Kerry, the secretary, say, no, we'll stop. We're not going to enrich our uranium to the weapons grade. And now the UN, you don't have to believe Trump. The UN is saying, hey, they're very close to having weapons grade uranium enrichment, and it could happen within weeks. That's what the UN says. And you're still sitting there in California going, I don't see it as an imminent threat?
But Bill, what about President Trump? What do you, that 6 months ago he said we obliterated all of it?
Well,
and
okay, look, I'm not in business to defend President Trump's rhetoric. What he did in June, last June, was he knocked out their primary facility where they were making the nuclear weapons. But there are satellite facilities, as you know that, okay? And that's where we're going now, not only in the nuke area, but the strategy is to obliterate all offensive capability from Iran because they're killers, they're murderers. So you've got to neutralize them down to pistols so they can't do the carnage they've been doing for 39 years. You got to stop it. And you say you don't want to stop it by calling them a terrorist nation? Come on.
Well, they are a terrorist nation. I have no problem calling them a terrorist nation.
But you voted against the resolution.
because of the whereas clauses where it said it was an imminent threat, where we respectfully disagree here that, I don't believe it was an imminent threat. If there is a clear resolution saying it's a terrorist state, of course it's a terrorist state. But Bill, what do you think so far we've accomplished? I'm hoping that we'll accomplish more. I believe the war is wrong, but we've replaced Khamenei, who was 86-year-old, with Khamenei Jr., who was 56-year-old, who was a more
Look,
of a hardliner.
it
And
doesn't
you've
look
got
at
still,
this moment like the regime is going to change what it looks like. And you know, I have access to the highest levels of power in the United States.
you do.
What it looks like is that the bombing will continue to obliterate Iran's offensive capabilities. That will take another week or so. Already today, there is a report. I cannot verify the report. I'll be in the White House next Tuesday. I'll be able to verify a lot more after I go there. But there's a report today that the Mullah Jr. has said we want now to talk. So the Iranians obviously are getting the hell kicked out of them. And this is a threat to them. And they wouldn't be in power if they didn't kill 30,000 of their own countrymen. Okay.
No question.
And so they'll probably open talks, and then Trump will impose what he wants. Now, whether Iran accepts that or not, I think they will, because they really don't have much of a choice now. The cliche is bombing them back to the Stone Age. That's what they're doing. And that is not a bad policy. I'll give you the last word.
The question is, what are we going to happen when we have a new president? Are they going to go bomb again when they start to develop the weapons?
With what? With what?
I think the public reporting, because I don't want to speak about anything classified, that I've seen is that they can rebuild this stuff in a couple of years. And, I think that's a question that Donald Trump or the administration needs to answer. What comes next? And first of all, the question should be clear to the American people. If this is not a regime change war, you should make that clear. If this is just to degrade Iran's capability, my view is it wasn't imminent. It still wasn't at the right moment in terms of our lives lost. But then now that we've done it, and I have great admiration and respect for the service members and their families who bore the ultimate sacrifice, we should at least make sure that their sacrifice isn't in vain, and that there's some plan that 2 years, 3 years from now, we don't have the same conversation about what are we going to do.
Well, we're going to have a different president in less than 3 years, so that's up to that person. Look, when they defeated Hitler, they got another problem with Stalin. But that doesn't mean you don't defeat Hitler. Hey, Congressman, it's always good talking with you. And again, I'll reiterate that you're a stand-up guy. And you should tell your peers, the conversations that we have are worthy. People need to hear both sides. And when you run and hide or just go on MSNBC because they kiss your butt, that does nobody any good. But you're an exception, and we appreciate it very much.